Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a picture out of Nocturnes by Anastasia Koldareva. Hope I pronounced that right. And this is the page that I've chosen. I've seen this done quite a bit on Pinterest and I just got really inspired to go ahead and give it a try. I have been working with a new medium for skin lately. I haven't done it on camera because I needed to practice, but I've been using pan pastels as like a base layer and then going over with pencils, Prismacolor pencils, because that's what I normally use. But going over then with pencils to do the fine detail work and any additional shadows after I lay down like a base layer with the pan pastels. And that seems to be working really well. I've done 3 pictures now using the pan pastels. I still consider myself a newbie, definitely not experienced by any means. But I thought I'd go ahead and give it a try on camera today, so bear with me. I can tell you right now that this picture is probably going to be at least a 2-part series, maybe a 3-part series, because I really want to take my time. Any pages out of Anastasia's books, I just really want to do them justice and feel like I did my best and be proud of them. So, what you will need to start with is definitely, obviously, pan pastels. And I'm going to get them out of my little palette here. I purchased the skin tone set and it came with this really nice palette. But there were a couple tones that I needed, or a couple different colors, I guess I should say, that I needed to do a range of dark skin and light skin. So I had to purchase a couple additional colors, and that was just fine. I went to my local Blick store, which is an art supply store, and picked those up. So, but I will leave links where you can purchase these. Like I was saying, the Blick Art carries them. I know Michaels carries them, but Michaels only carries them online, I think. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, you know, they are kind of expensive. It took me a while to break down and buy them. I do have to admit, I've been eyeing them for probably about 2 years and just finally decided that I wanted to go ahead and splurge. And the thing is, you know, with any high quality product, it's gonna last you forever. Like, I don't constantly do portraits, and these aren't a medium that I'm going to be using every single time I do a coloring page. So I can pretty much see that these are probably going to last me, you know, probably the rest of my life. So for this page, I really was envisioning her being a dark-skinned girl, but, you know, not super dark, kind of, I guess, a medium to light dark skin, if you know what I mean. So I'm thinking we will start off with, let's see, Red Iron Oxide shade. Red Iron Oxide Extra Dark. That's this one. We will need Burnt Sienna, let's see, Burnt Sienna Shade and Burnt Sienna Extra Dark. Let's see, what else are we going to need? We're going to need, oh, this magenta color. It's really like a really dark purple, but it's going to give you that just kind of extra depth to her skin in the shadow areas. I'll just leave the lid off for that since it's not cooperating. And we will need, we'll need the white and the Colorless Blender. And I have to say that the Colorless Blender, oh my gosh, this, I may end up going through this after a few years, but I use it the most out of any of these. So the Colorless Blender, white, and I think that's it. I will keep these ones off to the side in case I think I might need them. Keep them handy over here. Now, one thing that I found that's really handy as far as the tools go is to have a couple different tools designated, or sponges anyway, designated for different shades. Like I wanted to keep this one to use with the blender or the white, or those colors. And then this darker one is to use for, obviously the darker brown shades. And then I have this one here that I was using. I used a little bit of lavender on it for the lighter skinned lady that I just did off camera practicing with that. And then this is like a makeup applicator. It looks like it, but it's actually one of the soft tools that are made to go with the pan pastels. And one thing that's really cool is it's got this removable applicator, so you can just buy the refills and still use this. I just love it. It works really well. And if you're not familiar with these, the sponges just come right off, and you can change them out that way and reuse them. And I guess you can wash these too, so I haven't had to do that yet. And then I use this big sponge as kind of a color palette, so I can mix the colors on the sponge and then just take my tool here and get the color onto my tool and then apply it, because typically you're not going to want to go straight from the the pan pastel itself straight to your page, because it's just going to have way too much color. These colors are extremely saturated, so you definitely want to either tap it off on a sponge or use a rag. Now you can also clean off your sponge with the rag too, so I keep that next to me in case I need to use it for that as well. So this particular sponge is actually one that I cut in half because it was a really thick blending sponge, and I didn't really need it for that. I guess it depends on what you're doing, but I got this set here. Actually, the big sponge came with, it came with the skin set that I was just showing with the palette. I believe it came with the skin set, and you can see how thick it is. I was just thinking, I don't really need that. I just need a thin sponge to use as a palette. So I just took my scissors and cut it right in half, and it seems to be working just fine. But I bought these because I needed wanted another tool just to have, and some more little applicator sponges as well. So I think I'm pretty well set here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so it looks like right off the bat I already got something on my I must have had some powder on something. Anyway, that's okay because I'm probably going to be using Neo colors for the background, and it's going to be a dark background, so no worries. All right, so I'm going to start with my light colored sponge that I've designated for the Colorless Blender and the whites, and just pick up a little bit. I zoomed you out, so hopefully you can see more of what I'm doing. So just going to pick up some of the Colorless Blender, get it on my sponge, and work it all around. I just want to make sure that this is going to blend in really, you know, all the colors are going to blend really good. So just kind of apply it to everywhere the skin is. And now, mind you, this is the first time I've done the pan pastels, using pan pastels for skin on camera. So I am by no means an expert here. I'm kind of learning as I go and taking you along on the journey with me. Make sure I get all this area really good. Okay. And one thing that's nice is, you know, these pan pastels are very erasable. And I have like just an old, I probably need to get a new one, but an old like kneaded eraser, and all you have to do is just barely touch it on and it comes right off. So this is definitely my friend right now when I'm using these pan pastels. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is take a little bit of white and go over all the highlight areas where I'm going to have my highlights. And one thing that I really love about Anastasia's artwork is that she already puts in like where the highlights and the shading is going to be. So that is very helpful. Okay, on the nose. Oops, that was a blender. Now I'm seeing that Anastasia's designated kind of this whole area as being a little bit lighter, and I guess that's because it's, you know, it's a profile, it's not straight on. So let's see. Okay. All right, so next what we want to do is we want to, that was actually this sponge I had for my lighter skin girls, and this one I have for my darker skin girls. So I definitely want to make sure I have the right sponge going there. And I'm going to switch this one around too, since I was doing the same thing with my little tool here. Okay, so what I learned was, by the way, I learned all of this from Art by Karen Valentine. She's got a couple videos on this, and so that's what gave me the confidence to go ahead and give pan pastels a try. Oh, something, I just got a little notification on my phone here. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's see. So what we want to do is kind of just make a little mix of the browns. And since I want her to be kind of a medium, you know, dark skin lady, I don't want to get too carried away with any of the dark colors. So I'm gonna definitely heavily use this one, which is just the burnt sienna shade. So I'm gonna lean into that one a little bit more. So I'm just gonna take some, put it on my palette, take a little bit of the red iron oxide shade. Yes. Put that on my palette, a little bit, tiny bit of the red iron oxide extra dark, and a tiny bit of the burnt sienna extra dark. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more of the burnt sienna shade there. Okay, now this is where I want to be really careful and just apply it in the areas that are not the highlight areas. So, and I might need to go, this sponge might be a little too big. I might have to go straight to, oh, I think it's okay. Definitely going to be using this guy. So, okay, just bring it down here, since the shadows that she put in are, it's kind of right. I'll do a little edge right here. And then it's gonna kind of fade in like that. And there's gonna be, you know, obviously layers and layers here. So we're just gonna get some down and lots of blending. So get that down. And just try and go light as you can. Now, remember, you can always erase, so, and this stuff does erase pretty good. So I'm not too concerned about getting in her hairline or in any jewels, because I know that I'm definitely going to have to go around and erase in all of those areas. So it does look kind of rough in the beginning, like you're, like it's not going to turn out, but believe me, you'll be amazed at how well it ends up looking. And it's just so smooth and even. I was just like, why didn't I start this before? Well, I know why, but you know, the price is just a little hard to dive into, but I'm thinking it's going to be well worth it. So now I'm just doing the darkest areas here where I know my shadows are. Grabbing from my little palette here. Okay, I think, yeah, that's definitely going to have a lot of erasing to do, that's for sure. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got just trying to figure out where the lightest parts are going to be here. Looks like there's some shading right along here, back of her shoulder. So I'm going to try and drag that down like it's the back of her shoulder there. Yeah, I'm getting really sloppy with this, but it can all be erased. All right, trying to cover that, but not too much. Still want a little bit of a highlight there on top of her shoulder. I might have to. Now, I don't know what's going on with these little splotches here. I'm going to have to try to figure that out. Don't know what, if there was something on the paper or what. So I'm just going to keep adding more of my brown mixture, kind of deepening the shadows here. I don't know if you can hear my little Frenchie bulldog, but I got her fenced off because she was just being too obnoxious. So I was like, you need to give me some space here, girlfriend. Trying to get me to play with her. Throw her ball. So now she's not too happy that she can't be right where I am. Okay. Now I'm just kind of trying to lightly blend into these highlight areas. So I think what I'm going to do is now I'm going to get my white again, change my tool to my white tool, get my white a little bit more into those highlight areas. I might have got too much white on there. I'm going to dab it off a little bit. And kind of just start blending into the darker area. Okay. There, see, it's already softening up. I want to keep this kind of a little bit of a highlight right here, if I can, and then her top of her shoulder there. I might want to put some more shading right here, I think, after all. Okay, so yeah, it's obviously a process. Okay, so I'm going to go back in. Let's see. yeah, I'm going to go in with and make a little bit more of my brown mix because I think it was kind of getting used up there. Okay, more of that. Okay, that should be good. And just kind of go back into the shadow areas again. Yeah, I think I need to use my, I don't know what's going on here with that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna switch to my little brush. I think this is just too big right now. I'm gonna blend this out really quick. It's bothering me. Actually, let's see. I might use my eraser right here already. I know it looks a little questionable right now, but we're gonna get there, I promise. Okay, so just little by little, you gotta figure out where you need more, where you need less. I'm gonna get a scratch paper to put behind there. I just feel like I'm catching the edge there. And I don't want it to get on any other of my other papers there. There we go. That's better. I can't figure out what that is. Okay, well, it came off with the brush, so didn't have that happen before. All right, so I'm gonna go in, let's see. Oh, yeah, I wanted to do kind of a little bit better job underneath her chin here. Or on the bottom of her chin, I guess I should say. And right here. I'm just trying to lightly add color without going overboard. There we go. Okay. I feel like it needs some more work down here. Don't know why it's doing that with the kind of the clumps. Now, maybe it's the paper. I haven't done a page directly. I haven't done a picture directly in the book with this before, so could be the paper. I don't know. I use my little tool for that little bit there. Oh yeah, way better. Okay. Oh my goodness, the dogs just making noises over here, licking their paws. Okay, it's time to use the Colorless Blender now, I believe. So this was where I had the white. I'm going to just flip it over for the Colorless Blender because it'll probably pick up a little bit of the skin color there too. So I'm going to use, just blend it in a little bit. Now you have to be very careful if you use a brush. I mean, this stuff will just come right off, so just use it very lightly. Yeah, starting to look really good. I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit here. Yeah. So I think I'm going to try and get that shadow a little bit deeper here. Get that a little deeper right in there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I wrote down some notes. So reading off of my notes, the steps to do all of this. Let's see. So after we do that, Colorless Blender, we did that. We want to add some red iron extra dark to the deeper shadows, and I'm going to use my littlest sponge so that I have more control. So red iron extra dark right into the deepest shadows right there. Probably along her hairline and underneath her chin. Now, I plan on making her hair dark, obviously, with her dark skin. So it's going to be like a kind of a blackish brown color is what I wanted her to be black, but I felt like I might need to add brown into it. So because these crows or ravens are going to be black, and I'm going to make them black but with a little hint of either purple or green in them. It depends on the background. If I do the background blackish purple, then they'll have purple. If I do the background blackish green, then they'll have a little bit of green in them. So hopefully it'll be just enough to differentiate between the ravens and her hair. Also, I'm probably going to do like a light edge around them as well, so you can definitely tell where her hair stops and the raven starts, if that makes sense. So let's get a little bit more of the red iron extra dark, just a tiny bit. We're gonna do these shadow areas. Okay, a little bit more in. Ooh. See, I didn't follow my own advice there. So I'm going to take my brush and just lightly brush it. I should have been tapping off onto my rag. It's okay though. This stuff is so forgiving. I just love it. Because yeah, I could have, if I needed to, could get out my eraser too. So I'm just trying to deepen her skin tone a little bit more as well. I'm going to get the mixture here. I feel like it's not quite dark enough right there. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere now, finally. I mean, even though it feels like it's taken forever, I mean, I still would have never gotten this far this fast with pencils. So I'm going to take some more of the red iron oxide extra dark. Okay, let's get that. Might have gotten it a little too dark there. I'm gonna use my eraser and just lighten that up a bit. I'm gonna go back to my mixture here. Boy, that plane is loud. Okay. Maybe just a little bit more along her hairline here. Got a little, must have had a little bit more on my brush than I thought. All right. Now we want to, let's see, and magenta. So this is where we use a little tiny bit of the magenta. And I think because I got all these little tiny little areas where the shadow is, I'm gonna use one of these, but I'm gonna use a different one than this one. I'll get a fresh new one. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit on my applicator and dab it off. Actually, I could use my sponge, but I'll just use this. All right, so let's see how much do we have on there. Oh, that's good. That's good. Just kind of give it some depth here. I'm trying to go over super lightly. Now that might have even been a little too dark. We'll see. I can lighten it up though. Okay, just barely dabbing it. And it just kind of gives it a little bit more depth to those shadow areas. Kind of gives it a richer tone to it. It just, I never would have thought that purple, you know, would do that, but it really does for the darker skin for sure. Let's get a little bit in here. And along the back here, maybe. I might have gotten a little too much there. Okay, I'll use my blender there. That'll probably help. Just a little bit more right here. Hopefully that didn't get too dark. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe a little bit more in around her eyes. And her chin. Okay. I think that's gonna be all I'm gonna do for the magenta. Put that away. All right, we're gonna use the blender again now. So, and do some more blending. Her face looks really good. I'm just not too happy with this part down here. And then once we start using the pencils, it'll really come together. Now, I don't know why it is doing that, but it seems to come off if I just barely flick my brush over it. So All right. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, I'm just kind of blending all over because I think we're nearing the end point here with our pan pastels, and then we're gonna spray it with, I use the Krylon workable fixative spray, and that will set the pan pastels so a little bit so that we can go back in and do the rest of the page and use the pencils over the top without rubbing it off or messing it up. So I'm going to take my brush again. Hey, if somebody is watching this and they're really experienced with pan pastels, let me know why it's doing that, because I've done 3 pages and I've never had it do that before. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I might not be doing anything. I don't know. It could be the paper, like I said. I'm going to probably just take my little eraser and lightly go over those areas if I can't get it off with my brush. Okay. Now, let's see. Do we need any more shadows? I feel like we got it pretty good here. I don't need to lighten anything up. Yeah, I think we're kind of at the end point here with our pan pastels. So I am going to turn the camera off. And oh, one thing that I learned from Karen's Art by Karen was that it's really good to put a mask over. Like, I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to cut out like this whole piece right here. So don't mind my little blending experiments here, but so you can kind of see through. I'm going to just roughly draw with my pencil and make a little mask to put over it. So all that is coming through is where I lay down the pan pastel, so that I don't spray the Krylon fixative over this area, because I want to keep this unsprayed because it does affect how the pencil lays down, and it'll probably affect how the Neo colors lay down as well. So if you have any questions about that, leave it in the comments and I will get back to you. Oh yes, and before I forget, we need to go around and clean up all the areas where you don't want, before you spray your fixative, clean up all the areas where you don't want the pan pastel. Like, so we want to definitely clean up along, I'm using my little Mono Zero eraser for these tiny areas. We want to clean up along the edges of her skin line here and into the jewelry that we covered up and her hair areas. So just lightly trying to do that. And then we'll be ready for the fixative spray. Got ahead of myself there. So trying to clean up these chain links without getting too much of the skin, because it's kind of a pain to have to go in and retouch what you've erased and make it, you know, look like all those layers that you just laid down. So I will get to erasing all of this, and right here and where her hair is resting along her skin, and all the jewelry. Then we need to mask it so that all is showing is where you lay down the pan pastel, and spray with the fixative and let it dry, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we've erased all of the pan pastel in the areas where we don't want it, like in the jewels and her hair and on the sides, at least most of what I could get. Like I said, it doesn't matter if a little bit gets out here because I'm going to plan on doing a dark background anyway. So that's a little bit more forgiving in that area anyway. So then now we've got it all sprayed, so it's not going to, you know, rub off. And we want to go ahead and add more shading and her lips and eyes and eyebrows and all the fun stuff with our Prismacolors. So the first thing that we need to do, and this is what I learned from Karen also, is that we need to take our beige. Mine is really small now, so I have an extender. And just basically go all over her skin except for the highlight areas, which we will go over in white. Because apparently after you put on the fixative spray, you know, it's going to change the way the pencil lays down, if you've ever experienced that before. So we'll just start going, and plus I think it just makes it look a lot smoother too, kind of evens out the skin tones. I don't know, I still haven't mastered these pan pastels, so especially down here it looks kind of splotchy. So I know that going over with the pencils and the beige here is gonna really help to take care of that. So, and I'm just applying like medium pressure in the medium to lighter areas, and then a little bit firmer pressure, not too much though, in the darker areas. But you want to stay away from those lighter areas because, like I said, we're going to use the white pencil for that. Go back and do that. All right, where was I? Oh, my little dog is snoring. Sorry about that. Also, when I was erasing in these areas of the chain, you really couldn't avoid getting in those little areas there. So what I'm going to do is, once we get to, after we lay down the beige and the white, or at some point, I'm going to go back in with a darker color and just fill in those little areas. So, yeah, I don't know if you can probably really hear her snoring now. I don't know if anybody knows about Frenchies, little French bulldogs, but they snore. And it does wake you up at night. All right, so I'm going to put this on a little bit of a fast forward here, and you can kind of watch what I'm doing. And yeah, I'll have my little cards, tell you what colors I'm using. And I think that's pretty much how we'll proceed for the rest of the video. I'll probably pop in and out like I have been on some of my previous videos where I pop in to explain something, so this video doesn't end up taking too terribly long. All right. Okay, so I just wanted to say here that when you're adding these pencil layers on top of the pan pastels, just use very, very light layers because it grabs the pencil really well. So you don't want to lay down too much of the pencil color. Just light layers, and then we will blend them with the Caran d'Ache blender afterwards.
Okay, so here I have switched to a Holbein black pencil, but if you don't have Holbein, that's fine. I just wanted a firmer pencil than the Prismacolor of, so if you have like a Polychromo or, you know, one of the other pencils that have a little bit of a harder core to it, that would work just fine.